Hey, I'm Crown, and this is Tango the Chao. If you don't know, Chao are a sort of in-game creature pet you can raise in the Sonic Adventure era games, with the rings and items you collect in the action stages. For example, Tango here is a swim type because I ended up giving him a disproportionate quantity of swim stat raising items, and a hero type because I like to tend my Chao as tails. As it turns out, hovering in place above all my children like a literal helicopter parent is kind of the optimal child raising solution for these little guys. Anyway, Tango's been living in the tiny Chao garden of my copy of Sonic Advance for about 20 years now, but he kinda became important to me again recently. See, while I was recently messing with some old hardware, I discovered that if I connected a few things together in a certain way, I would be able to stream and record GameCube games. Which of course led immediately to me tormenting my friends with a playthrough of Shadow the Hedgehog.
I still unironically really enjoy this game, like for realsies, I'm not even kidding.
Then I loaded up Smash Bros. Melee and finally got around to finishing off my trophy collection. Better 20 years late than never, I suppose. And then I threw in Sonic Adventure DX. I gathered up most of the emblems that I neglected back in the day. Honestly, never really got into this game as much as Sonic Adventure 2. Too much jank, not enough polish. I mean, seriously, look at this. Then I got to the point where the only thing left to collect were the emblems from the Chao races. And thus, the ideal impetus for this journey. What if I could bring Tango home to the GameCube for just a few more races? But, as expected, it's not that simple, for two reasons. First of all, he was born in Sonic Adventure 2, and I originally wanted to bring him back home there first, but what I've been showing you is not my GameCube Sonic Adventure 2 Chao Garden. This is my Steam Sonic Adventure 2 Chao Garden. Because when I try to launch my copy of Sonic Adventure 2 on GameCube, I get this. So that step is out of the question. And secondly, Tango isn't just in my Game Boy Advance for funsies. Tango is there because he has to be. I like to think I'm pretty good at raising Chao. I feed all my Chao children. I feed all my Chao, even if I'm not boosting everyone's stats. I take them all to kindergarten, and they all get pets and carried around when I have a moment. But unfortunately, I have a brother who is not quite as good. And he really liked to start fights with me when we were kids. Even though he wasn't particularly great at winning them. Ever. So when he lost, he had to come up with his own way of getting back at me, since physical violence never worked out for him. And the method he came up with was repeatedly chucking Tango against the wall when I wasn't home. Now, as soon as I found out about it, I can proudly assure you, my retaliation was both sensibly measured and extremely appropriate. That being said, in the Sonic Adventure games, Chao have a life cycle. Naturally, death has a place at the end of it, but Chao also have a hidden stat, happiness. There's no way to check it in-game, but in Sonic Adventure 2, if a Chao at the end of its life has above 50 points in happiness, they'll cocoon themselves in a little pink onion thing and reincarnate as an egg. And when that egg hatches, the Chao will re-emerge. Same look, name, and they'll even carry over some stats from their previous life. Although if they have less than 50 happiness, say for example as a result of an erratic family member repeatedly eating them around the garden in your absence, they'll get a gray cocoon, and when that disappears, so will they. Basically, they'll die. And that's how I found out what had been happening. While I was hanging out in my garden, Tango sat down and was suddenly enveloped in a gray onion. In my panic, Childy quickly reset the GameCube, went back to the garden, and scooped him out of the pond before he had an opportunity to onionize. I lobbed him into the GBA transfer machine, and sent him to my copy of Sonic Advance, where no such life cycle exists. It might not be the happiest ending, literally, given how low his happiness stat must have been for things to come to this, but it was the best that I could do for him at the time. So, from that moment on, this is where he's lived. It's not all bad, I don't think. I did finish grinding his stats to 99 here, got to carry him with me, gave him a TV and a rubber ducky. But it's cruel of me to selfishly trap him here forever. So I'm gonna summon him to my copy of Sonic Adventure DX, do the races with him, give him a little send-off, and let him go. After about 45 minutes of steeling myself with the impending stress I would need to endure, I ran over to the pickup machine, popped Tango out of my GBA, and without even stopping to say hello, it was off to the races before his death onion could activate. There he is. It's kind of wild seeing him after all this time. His stats are decent. I mean, definitely good enough to easily roll over every other child in this competition, and honestly, I feel like that's a pretty solid run stat for a kid that doesn't even have legs. Anyway, here we are at our first race, and he's sleeping. Ah, that's adorable. Also, why? Tango, if this is your way of disrespecting the competition, I get that, but I feel inclined to remind you of a relevant fable about this exact scenario and how poorly this strategy plays out. Whatever. I mean, he caught up, so it's probably fine. Now, these are the beginner courses, and as much as I would love to frame Tango as an underdog overcoming impossible odds here, the reality of the situation is that we are sending our maxed out boy to a quadrathlon to trounce a maternity ward, and it goes exactly how you would expect. So, we're just gonna skip on ahead to the actual challenges, the Jewel courses. First up is the Pearl course. It's short and focuses on power and run. Since Tango easily won all the beginner courses, even though he seems to insist on starting every race off with a power nap, the Jewel courses should still be pretty... Wait, what? He lost. He's not even on the podium! That's probably a fluke. Round 2, run it back. Right back to 4th place again. Uh-oh. You know what? We'll come back to that one. Next up is the Amethyst course, which claims to favor flying types, but most Chao just seem to end up running it the whole time. Also, I repeatedly run into this other problem where when I'm trying to get cool footage of my kid mopping the floor with the rest of his kindergarten class, occasionally another Chao will yoink control of the camera away for a second and get a burst of speed. It's meant to be a hype catch-up mechanic to give the Chaos furthest behind a chance to close the gap, but it mostly just made this really frustrating to record, though that was easy enough to get over when Tango won pretty decisively. Emblem acquired. Next up is the Sapphire course, which has segments for power, run, and swim. Get absolutely wrecked for a second time, flying types. And it is here we get a moment to ponder how Tango, a Chao with no legs, manages to fall down at least 3 times during this race. You have no legs. What are you tripping over? Well, he won, so I'm not going to complain too much. Emblem acquired. At this point, you may have noticed that the longer the course is, the more time Tango has to get back into the race, once he decides to actually participate. The Ruby course is all about swimming, which kind of makes me feel like the last 2 courses got their gems mixed up, and reminds me that Tango is a swim type. Emblem acquired. The Emerald course has a little bit of everything, but I want to save that one for last, so for now, that just leaves us with the problematically brief Pearl course. I mean, surely those last 2 losses were merely outliers, and that's when it hit me. Because this race is so short, Tango falling asleep at the start sets him back so far that, even at max level, no matter how hard I Mario Party mash the A button to wake him, if that even does anything, there's no way he can catch up in time to take first place. Normally, if this happened, you just let your Chao rest, but if I exit to the garden, Tango's cocoon will take priority over sleep and he'll disappear. I can't even send him back to the GPA to nap because that won't have any effect on his fatigue in this game. I don't have a method to get around this. This is as far as my effort could take us. But it was never just my effort, was it? I may have been the one coordinating the endeavor, but I can't actually do the work. And though I can lead a Chao to the races, I can't make him run. In order to win, Tango has to wake up and want to win just as badly as I do. And it turns out, he did. 2 decades of Tango's accumulated determination and sheer will to exist burst forth in a demonstration of speed hitherto thought impossible, easily claiming first place and making a fool of me for ever having worried at all. Emblem acquired. With the Pearl course behind us, the Emerald course served more as a victory lap than a final challenge as Tango easily dominated the race and claimed our final emblem, finally granting me a bunch of old Game Gear games that I will literally never play, and 100% completion in Sonic Adventure DX. Having completed all of our objectives, it was time to start setting up the funeral. is what a less obstinate person might have said. Not one person thought, after all that effort, I would accept such an ending, that I would roll over in supplication, mere passenger to fate's callous machinations. Nay, from the moment I conspired this long overdue moratorium on Tango's GBA sojourn, every part of my ploy was already anchored in place. And you've already seen each part individually, scattered deviously throughout the runtime of this video. So to bring everyone up to speed, allow me to spell out my surreptitious scheme. The more astute amongst you may have noticed a detail deliberately left on screen here. In Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, the reincarnation happiness cutoff is 50 points, but directly above that, you'll see the rebirth threshold in Sonic Adventure DX is an easier to achieve 30 points. Next, the way Chao spawn upon entering a garden. If a Chao undergoing a life change is on land after loading in, they'll likely enter their onion before you have a hope of reaching them, but leaving the area before the change finalizes will reset them to their pre-onion state the next time you reload the area. In addition to that, a Chao cannot enter their onion if they happen to be in water when you load in. Adding all this together means that if you reload the garden until you catch your Chao swimming, you'll have an opportunity to pick them up, pet them, or even feed them in an effort to raise their happiness above the cutoff and prevent their death. And so, with a handful of meticulous preparations and a pinch of heartfelt execution, 20 years of feeling sporadic pangs of guilt and responsibility for Tango's suffering in mere minutes of serious effort, were reverse metamorphosed into a second chance at a better life. With all the stressful stuff done with, it was time to chill out and let Tango hatch. Huh, still no legs. Classic Tango. I showed him around the gardens he'd never seen before, let him play around a bit, tried to feed him a mushroom that he adamantly refused to take even a single bite of, and let him put his first payment down on a 20-year-old sleep debt. It was a strange journey, coming back to this situation, something that had meant a lot to me decades ago that I had almost completely forgotten about, barring the occasional transient reminiscence, and then rediscovering its value in solving a problem that a past version of me couldn't, or maybe just didn't. It really highlights what's changed, and makes you wonder what else could change. But for now, it's time for Tango to go home, and I know it might seem weird to put him back in the GBA after everything that happened, but he's not here because he has to be anymore. Now it can actually be for fun. Besides, it's always a good idea to return home at Journey's End, to appreciate and think about everything that happened while you were out on your adventure, and what you might want to do next. Which is why Tango's true adventure may not be over just yet. Don't forget to subscribe. You don't want to miss part 2. Like the video. Share it with your friends. Have you subscribed? Do the bell thing. Maybe leave a comment. Be a little if you don't subscribe, I will resort to violence.